So, you've probably read a lot about unconscious bias, and you've seen the overwhelming research that shows that even when people have the best intentions, hidden unconscious biases can influence a lot of the decisions that we make every day. So you're probably thinking about whether unconscious bias training is appropriate or useful for your organization. The problem is that you've read other research which shows that unconscious bias training is sometimes ineffective, or even worse, can be counterproductive. Now, it's true that in and of itself, just raising people's awareness about unconscious bias may not be enough to change their behaviors and counteract bias on a day-to-day basis. But if you view awareness raising as the first step in a process, then you'll see that unconscious bias training can actually be a very effective tool. Great unconscious bias training should follow 3 stages. The first is awareness. It's hard to get people to think and act differently if they don't understand why they should do so. When people become aware of the fact that everyone has unconscious bias and nobody is an exception, and this doesn't make you a bad person, rather just a regular, flawed human being, they become much more receptive to the major procedural and structural changes that are required to counteract unconscious bias. The second stage is relevance. When people think unconscious bias is just about removing obstacles for people who are different to themselves, it may not feel that personally relevant to them. But unconscious bias is much more than just a diversity issue. It in fact influences all kinds of strategic and business decisions that we make every day. Unconscious bias affects the way we process ideas, concepts, and information. And when people understand this, they can then see how counteracting bias takes on an entirely new level of personal relevance and urgency that will motivate them to start making real changes in the way that they do things. The final stage is skill building. Once people understand what unconscious bias is and recognize its relevance to them, it's only then by putting in new structures, routines, measures, and disciplines that we can really start to counteract the effects of unconscious bias. Any good unconscious bias training program must impart people with general skills that they can apply in all sorts of decision-making situations to think about the different influences that are affecting the outcome. If you can ensure that your unconscious bias training ticks these 3 boxes of awareness, relevance, and skills, then it can start to deliver the sorts of outcomes in both your people and everyday strategic business decision-making. If you'd like to learn more about how Symetra addresses unconscious bias, visit symetra.com.au.